Have you ever noticed how some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth while others struggle endlessly, despite working twice as hard? What if everything you've been taught about creating financial abundance has been fundamentally backwards? Most people believe that money is something you earn through hard work and persistence. Others think it's something you attract through positive thinking and visualization. But what if I told you that money isn't earned or attracted at all? What if, in reality, money is actually provoked? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Stay with me until the end, because this insight might completely transform how you relate to wealth forever. You see, money moves when something inside you dares it to. Not through effort, not through repetition, but through a silent certainty that requires no external validation. Has this ever happened to you? Have you witnessed someone speak with such conviction that doors seem to open for them automatically, as if reality itself was listening to their command? This isn't mere confidence as most people understand it. It's something far more powerful. It's command. And there exists one specific type of command that every form of wealth, success, and opportunity instantly recognizes and responds to. Not because it's louder or more forceful than others, but because it's final. When you observe those who effortlessly manifest abundance, you'll notice they don't chase after opportunities. Instead, they make declarations, and the world seems to rearrange itself to match those statements. They speak with a quiet authority that doesn't ask for permission. It simply knows. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because it goes against everything conventional wisdom teaches about financial success. The wealthiest, most abundant people aren't using more complicated techniques or working harder than everyone else. They've simply mastered the art of speaking in a tone that money can't help but obey. This inner certainty creates a resonance that wealth responds to immediately. It's not about shouting affirmations into the void or desperately visualizing bank accounts filled with money. It's about embodying a state of being that doesn't negotiate with reality, it directs it. Imagine being able to shift your relationship with money so fundamentally that it begins responding to you rather than you chasing after it. Imagine the freedom of knowing that abundance isn't something you need to pursue, but something that naturally flows toward you when you speak its language. The truth is, there's one sentence, one specific command that makes money move. Not because of some mystical law, but because it changes something essential in how you relate to wealth itself. And once you understand this command and begin to embody it, everything changes. Let me share a personal revelation that completely transformed my understanding of this truth. If this perspective on wealth resonates with your journey, hit that subscribe button now to join our community of conscious creators who understand that abundance isn't something to chase, it's something to command. I remember sitting alone at my desk one night, the kind of night when silence feels heavier than sound. The glow of my laptop screen reflected off an empty glass as I faced the painful reality that everything I'd built was starting to crumble around me. Projects were failing, clients were leaving, and that sense of certainty I once had was dissolving into doubt. This moment of crisis wasn't just about financial struggles. It was a profound awakening on my journey toward understanding the hidden language of abundance. Have you ever reached that breaking point where everything you thought you knew suddenly seems insufficient? That's exactly where my transformation began. I had followed every rule in the manifestation playbook, made vision boards, recited affirmations, created detailed plans, and maintained positive thoughts no matter what. Yet nothing was moving. I felt stuck in a reality that refused to align with my desires, despite all my dedicated efforts. Then, in that raw moment of surrender, something within me shifted, not in a dramatic, earth-shattering way, but like a quiet realization snapping into place. I leaned back in my chair and asked aloud, "What else do you want from me?" The universe didn't respond with words, but with a profound revelation that altered my entire relationship with wealth. I suddenly understood that I'd spent years talking to money, but never once had I talked as the version of myself who already possessed it. This insight wasn't about technique or effort. It was about identity. The mindset shift was subtle yet revolutionary. I needed to speak from the position of already having abundance rather than constantly seeking it. It was like remembering a word I'd known my whole life but had never used in the right sentence. The revelation wasn't about changing what I was doing. It was about transforming who I was being in relation to wealth. This wasn't about pretending or fake it till you make it psychology. This was about recognizing a deeper truth about how reality responds to our innermost convictions. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what happened when I stood up from that chair, carrying this newfound awareness. Something inside me was still for the first time in years. Not peace exactly, but a quiet, unshakable authority. Life had finally stopped negotiating, and reality had started listening. But what exactly changed in that moment, and how did the world begin responding differently? If you've ever experienced that moment when something clicks into place and you just know things will never be the same again, write "inner authority awakened" in the comments below. I want to be clear about what emerged in that moment. The sensation wasn't peace or relief. It was something far more profound and fundamental. It was authority. Not the kind of authority that needs to announce itself or demand attention, but a quiet, unshakable certainty that settled into my being like it had always belonged there. This authority wasn't about power over others or even power over circumstances. It was a recognition of alignment with something deeper, as if reality had finally stopped negotiating with me and started listening instead. The constant mental chatter of how and when and what if simply dissolved, replaced by a calm knowing that didn't need validation or proof. What's fascinating about these pivotal moments of transformation is how ordinary they often appear on the surface. There I was, on just another rainy evening, nothing special marking the occasion, no dramatic soundtrack, no thunderbolt of inspiration, no external validation that anything significant was happening. Just the soft blue light of my screen, the gentle tapping of rain against the window, and the ordinary silence of an unremarkable night. Yet these seemingly mundane moments can become the hinges upon which our entire lives turn. The revelation doesn't arrive with fanfare. It slips in through the back door of consciousness while we're busy looking for grand entrances. The internal shift in perception and energy happens so subtly that we might not even recognize its significance until we look back and see how everything changed from that point forward. Think about the watershed moments in your own journey. Weren't they often disguised as ordinary days? A random conversation, a quiet afternoon, a simple question that landed differently. These become the catalysts for profound realignment in our lives. The universe doesn't always announce its most significant teachings with dramatic flair. Sometimes it whispers them in the spaces between our thoughts. This particular night became etched in my memory not because anything spectacular happened externally, but because my relationship with reality itself underwent a fundamental recalibration. I was staring at a number that didn't make sense, the gap between what I had and what I needed. It wasn't enormous, but it represented years of trying, failing, almost succeeding, and ending up back at square one. It's strange how still the mind becomes when it finally runs out of fight. In that stillness, everything unnecessary falls away, and what remains is the essence, the core truth that was always there beneath the noise of striving. The mind stops its endless calculations and projections, and something else takes over. A different kind of intelligence that operates beyond the limitations of thought. What if I told you that this stillness is actually the doorway to your greatest power? What if the moment when you finally stop pushing against life is precisely when life begins moving toward you? If you've experienced this profound stillness that comes not from defeat, but from surrender to a higher wisdom, write "Stillness Speaks" in the comments below. In this profound stillness, I found myself in an entirely new mental space. Not a place of defeat or resignation, but a clearing where all the noise of constant striving had finally quieted down. It was as if my mind had been running a marathon for years, testing every strategy, repeating every affirmation, constructing elaborate plans and visualizations. And finally, exhausted, it simply stopped. But here's the revelation. When the mind runs out of fight, it doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've created space for a different kind of clarity to emerge. This clarity isn't the product of effort or analysis. It arrives precisely when you stop forcing it. It's the wisdom that shows up when you put down the weapons of control and surrender to something greater than your strategic mind. As I sat there in that strange mental emptiness, no plans, no affirmations, no strategies left to test, a question arose that felt almost blasphemous to everything I'd been taught about manifestation and success. What if it's not about what I do? This single question challenged the entire foundation of conventional wisdom. Every book, every guru, every voice I had trusted had been telling me the same thing. Do more, think bigger, work harder, visualize longer, affirm stronger. The path to abundance was always presented as an intensification of effort. Just do what you're doing, but more of it, with more focus, more energy, more conviction. But what if the key wasn't bigger or more? What if it was actually smaller, subtler? What if the thing I'd been missing wasn't hidden in grand gestures or elaborate techniques, but in the space between words, in a tone I'd never used before? A tone that doesn't rise or plead or convince, but simply declares and knows? This is where the true revolution in manifestation begins. Not with another technique to master or another practice to perfect, but with a fundamental shift in the energy behind everything you already do. The words might remain the same, but the consciousness behind them transforms completely. Think of how different it feels when someone speaks from absolute certainty versus when they speak from hope or wishful thinking. The words might be identical, but the impact is worlds apart. One ripples through reality with barely a trace. The other reorganizes everything in its path. One is a request, the other is a command. I didn't say anything out loud that night. I just sat there breathing, listening, as if the air itself was trying to hand me an answer. And then I felt it, that quiet, precise shift in the chest, like the world had moved 1 inch closer without making a sound. Nothing happened externally. No message, no miracle, no sudden transfer of funds. But the silence felt different, not empty anymore, but aware, as if reality had turned its head and noticed me for the first time. What was this subtle shift that changed everything? It wasn't a thought or an emotion or a decision in the conventional sense. It was more like a remembrance, a recognition of a truth that had always been there beneath the noise of trying. If you've ever experienced that moment when something inside you just clicks and you recognize a truth that was always there waiting for you, write "truth recognized" in the comments below. Let me describe this tone more clearly, because it's the essence of everything we're exploring together. This isn't about volume or intensity. You don't need to shout at the universe or overwhelm it with emotional force. The power lies in a quality of voice that doesn't rise or plead, but simply declares and knows. It's remarkably subtle, yet unmistakable once you recognize it. Think of how a master craftsman speaks about their domain, not with bravado or desperate conviction, but with the quiet certainty that comes from intimate knowledge. They don't need to convince anyone because their relationship with their craft transcends the need for external validation. This is the energetic frequency that money, opportunity, and abundance instantly recognize and respond to. This tone isn't something you can fake or manufacture. It emerges naturally when you stop trying to convince reality to change and start operating from the vantage point where change has already occurred. It's the voice of someone who isn't hoping for an outcome, but is already experiencing it on an internal level so profound that external circumstances have no choice but to align. The fascinating thing about this inner shift is how understated its initial appearance can be. When it happened for me, there were no fireworks, no dramatic revelations, no instant manifestations, materializing before my eyes. In fact, nothing tangible happened that night at all. I simply went to bed and woke up the next morning to what appeared to be the same life circumstances. Ready to master the language that money instantly obeys? Subscribe now and let's continue this journey together as we explore the deeper truths of manifestation beyond technique and into the realm of identity. But something had undeniably changed, not in my external reality yet, but in the quality of silence surrounding me. It was as if the air itself had become more aware, more responsive. Have you ever walked into a room and felt immediately that something was different, even though nothing visible had changed? That's what this felt like. Reality had turned its head and noticed me, perhaps for the first time, not because I was shouting louder, but because I was finally speaking a language it understood. This shift in awareness represents the true alchemy of manifestation. We're so conditioned to expect immediate external results that we often miss the subtle internal metamorphosis that precedes all tangible change. The journey of transformation begins with this whisper, quiet moment when your relationship with reality fundamentally recalibrates. What's occurring in this sacred space is a profound identity shift. You're no longer the person pleading with the universe for scraps of abundance. You've become the person for whom abundance is the natural state of being. Your nervous system begins to acclimate to this new perspective and reality, which is infinitely more responsive than we've been taught to believe, begins its silent reorganization around this new frequency you're emitting. The miraculous aspect of this inner revelation is how it bypasses the need for constant affirmation or effort. It's not something you need to maintain through repetition or force of will. Once this awareness activates within you, it begins operating automatically, beneath the level of conscious thought, informing every word, gesture, and decision from a place of inherent knowing. If you've ever experienced that profound moment when something shifts inside you before any external evidence appears, that quiet certainty that things are already different even though nothing has visibly changed, write "inner knowing activated" in the comments below. When you start observing life closely, really paying attention to how events unfold and circumstances arrange themselves, you begin to notice a pattern that's always been operating beneath the surface. This pattern isn't random or chaotic, it's remarkably consistent, like water patiently carving its path through stone. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or demand attention. Instead, it works silently, persistently, shaping everything in its path with an intelligence that's both subtle and undeniable. What you're witnessing is the rhythmic dance between your internal state and external reality, a relationship far more intimate and responsive than most of us have been taught to believe. Every event, every delay, every strange coincidence follows this rhythm, as if reality itself has a pulse that responds to one essential thing: tone. But I'm not talking about the audible tone of your voice. I'm referring to the energetic frequency that emanates from your deepest expectations, the invisible current that communicates what you truly believe is possible, deserved, and available to you. This is the hidden language that life understands perfectly, regardless of what your words might be saying on the surface. Think about it. How many times have you verbally affirmed positive outcomes while internally harboring doubt? How often have you proclaimed abundance while secretly preparing for scarcity? The revelation that transformed my relationship with manifestation was understanding that life never responds to our verbal declarations. It responds with perfect precision to the energy behind those words. It's almost like reality has a built-in authenticity detector that bypasses our carefully constructed language and responds only to the genuine signal beneath. This explains why two people can use identical affirmations or visualization techniques with drastically different results. The words may be identical, but the energetic transmission, the tone, can be worlds apart. You can witness this principle operating in ordinary moments every day. Someone loses a job and immediately panics. Suddenly, everything seems to collapse at once. Bills pile up, opportunities vanish, support systems crumble. Another person loses the same job, takes a deep breath, makes a cup of coffee, and within days, an even better opportunity appears. Same external situation, but entirely different tone, and consequently, entirely different outcomes. This pattern is so consistent, it would almost seem cruel if it weren't so perfectly fair. Life never mirrors our hopes, wishes, or verbal affirmations. It mirrors our state, the energetic frequency we're actually broadcasting beneath our words. Once you understand this fundamental principle, you begin to see that the events unfolding around you aren't random occurrences happening to you. They're precise reflections of what you're silently communicating to the universe. The backdrop of your life, the canvas upon which all your experiences are painted, isn't determined by external forces beyond your control. It's shaped by this invisible conversation happening between your deepest beliefs and universal intelligence. If you've noticed this mirroring effect in your own life, where your internal state seems to manifest as external circumstances with almost eerie precision, write "mirror principle activated" in the comments below. Once you recognize this principle in action, you begin to see it everywhere. Consider two colleagues who both face the same professional setback, perhaps a project failure or being passed over for a promotion. The first person immediately spirals into a narrative of victimhood and rejection. "This always happens to me," they think. "Nothing ever works out." Within weeks, other aspects of their professional life begin to deteriorate as well. Relationships strain, opportunities vanish, and what began as a single setback cascades into a comprehensive career challenge. Meanwhile, the second person receives the identical news and responds with a fundamentally different tone. Not toxic, positivity or denial, but a quiet, centered awareness that says, "This is redirection, not rejection. Something better is already in motion." Without forcing or straining, this person moves forward with calm certainty. And within the same time frame that brought collapse to the first person, they find themselves presented with an unexpected opportunity that exceeds what they originally sought. The external catalyst was identical. The divergent outcomes weren't determined by different actions or strategies, but by the distinct energetic signatures these two individuals were broadcasting to the universe. It's almost mathematically precise. The frequency you emit determines the frequency you receive back. This isn't mystical, it's mechanical. It's the operating system of reality. Yet here's the revelation that changed everything for me. Most people aren't actually living their lives. They're reacting to their own echoes. What appears to be the world deciding things for you, determining your fortune, limiting your success, controlling your circumstances, is actually just the world faithfully mirroring back what you've already communicated through your internal state. This is simultaneously the most liberating and most confronting truth about manifestation. Nothing is happening to you that wasn't first seeded within you. The universe isn't punishing or rewarding you. It's simply returning your own energy with perfect fidelity. Your life isn't a random series of events happening to you. It's an immaculate reflection of what you've been silently broadcasting all along. The breakthrough moment in my own journey came when I finally stopped blaming external circumstances for my financial situation and recognized the pattern of my own creation. I wasn't a victim of economic forces or bad luck or insufficient opportunity. I was experiencing the perfect echo of my own internal uncertainty, my own divided expectations, my own conflicted beliefs about what I deserved and what was possible. This realization isn't about assigning blame or shame. It's about claiming the profound creative power that's been yours all along. Once you understand that you're not at the mercy of external conditions, but are actually the architect of those conditions through your energetic broadcast, everything changes. You shift from the passenger seat to the driver's seat of your reality. The transformation begins when you stop treating life as something that happens to you and recognize it as something that happens through you and for you. If you've had that moment of clarity when you suddenly saw how your own energy was creating the very circumstances you were complaining about, write "I create my reality" in the comments below. Now, I want to go even deeper into the pivotal moment that marks the true beginning of your conscious creation journey. It happens when you finally stop explaining yourself to life, when you cease the endless justifications for why you deserve abundance, why you should succeed, why your dreams matter. This constant explaining is actually a subtle form of begging, and it carries an energetic signature of unworthiness that sabotages the very outcomes you're advocating for. Think about your relationship with money and success up until now. How much energy have you invested in making your case? The detailed visualizations explaining how the money would help you, the heartfelt affirmations justifying why you deserve it, the elaborate plans proving you've done the work. All of this carries an underlying tone that says, I need to convince reality that I'm worthy of this. But what if you simply stopped explaining? What if, instead of presenting your case to the universe, you issued clear statements from a place of quiet clarity, not from arrogance or entitlement, but from the genuine recognition of your inherent creative authority? This is where a completely different kind of peace emerges. Not the temporary relief of having made a good argument, but the lasting serenity of someone who knows they don't need to make an argument at all. This shift in posture represents a quantum leap in your manifestation journey. When you cease pleading with reality to change and simply stand in the space where change has already occurred, something remarkable happens. The world begins to reorganize itself around you. It's almost as if reality has been waiting for this signal all along. This quiet, unambiguous declaration that doesn't ask for permission or validation. From this stance of quiet authority, you'll notice a profound shift in how circumstances respond to you. Conversations align differently. Numbers adjust themselves. Paths cross that were never meant to intersect. It doesn't feel like magic or miracle. It feels like gravity, natural, obvious, as if the universe had simply been waiting for clear instructions and you finally remembered how to give them. The stories start to emerge, unexpected bonuses appearing, projects reviving themselves, doors opening without a single knock. Others might call it luck or coincidence, but you'll recognize it for what it truly is: obedience. Reality bowing to the one who has stopped pleading for it to change and has simply occupied the space where change is already complete. This isn't about forcing outcomes through mental gymnastics or emotional intensity. It's about a fundamental repositioning of your consciousness. You're no longer standing outside abundance looking in, hoping to be admitted. You're standing at the center of abundance, naturally emanating its frequency, and watching as the external world rearranges itself to match this new point of reference. The transformation feels like stepping into a river that was always flowing in your direction. You simply stopped standing on the shore, analyzing the current, and finally allowed yourself to be carried by it. If you've experienced that profound moment when you stopped trying to convince life of your worthiness and simply claimed your natural place in the flow of abundance, write "I claim my abundance" in the comments below. There comes a point in your journey where the world stops feeling random. Patterns emerge with such precision that they become impossible to ignore. You begin to notice how the same timing repeats, how the same lessons return until they're learned, how situations seem deliberately orchestrated to test something specific within you. But here's the revelation that changed everything for me. Life isn't testing your thoughts or even your actions. It's testing your tone. Every delay, every challenge, every almost that doesn't quite materialize is a mirror asking one fundamental question: are you reacting or remembering? Are you getting pulled into the familiar patterns of frustration, doubt, and urgency? Or are you maintaining that frequency of calm certainty that comes from remembering who you truly are? This is the true test, not whether you can maintain positive thinking, but whether you can maintain authentic being. The patterns in your life aren't random coincidences or cruel obstacles. They're precisely calibrated instruments designed to reveal where you're still broadcasting at a frequency that doesn't match your desires. They show you exactly where your consciousness still holds conflicting signals, where your words say one thing, but your energetic broadcast says another. When you begin to see life through this lens, something remarkable happens. Instead of treating challenges as problems to overcome, you recognize them as feedback mechanisms showing you exactly where your internal alignment needs adjustment. Each circumstance becomes a tuning fork, helping you refine your frequency until it matches what you wish to create. And here's where the magic truly begins. When you stop reacting to these circumstances, something subtle but extraordinary emerges in that space. The mental and emotional noise created by reaction has been drowning out a guidance system that's been operating within and around you all along. As that noise subsides, you start hearing something that was always there, not a voice in the conventional sense, but an awareness with direction. This intelligence doesn't shout or demand attention. It moves through everything with quiet precision, organizing events, timing, and connections with an elegance that the reactive mind could never comprehend. It doesn't argue, doesn't rush, and doesn't need to prove itself. It simply arranges everything that's willing to listen into perfect alignment. When this awareness enters your conscious experience, it doesn't announce opportunities or push you toward action. It rearranges your perception so that the next perfect step becomes obvious, natural, almost inevitable. Conversations begin to echo thoughts you haven't yet spoken. People call at precisely the moment you think of them. Resources appear from unexpected sources, as if the invisible part of you finally remembered how to organize the visible. At first, this guidance system feels almost impossible to explain or describe to others. So you don't try. You simply start moving differently through the world, following this internal compass with growing trust. There's no need to announce what's happening. You can see the reflection of your new alignment in every person and circumstance that crosses your path. If you've experienced moments when you stepped out of reaction and suddenly sensed a subtle intelligence guiding your next move, a knowing that wasn't logical but proved to be perfectly aligned, write "guided by wisdom" in the comments below. The truly remarkable aspect of this inner awareness is how it operates in your external world. Unlike our ego-driven efforts that chase and pursue opportunities with noise and struggle, this intelligence works through silent reorganization. It doesn't need to announce possibilities through dramatic events or coincidences. Instead, it quietly shifts the landscape of your life until the perfect opportunities naturally appear in your path. Think about how differently this functions compared to conventional manifestation approaches. We're often taught to visualize specific outcomes, to affirm particular scenarios, to strategically position ourselves for success. But this awareness operates with a wisdom far beyond our limited planning. It doesn't just deliver the opportunities we've imagined. It orchestrates circumstances we couldn't have conceived, pathways we wouldn't have recognized, connections that exceed our strategic thinking. This is because the intelligence responding to your internal state doesn't just know what you want. It knows what you need. It understands the complete blueprint of your highest expression and arranges reality accordingly. Sometimes this means doors closing that you desperately wanted open. Sometimes it means delays that initially feel like denials. But the orchestration is always perfect, always aligned with your true frequency rather than your temporary desires. What becomes fascinating to witness is how this internal shift in your energetic signature affects everyone you encounter. Have you noticed how people respond differently to you when you're operating from genuine certainty rather than hopeful pretending? There's an almost magical quality to how others begin to mirror your internal state. When you hold unshakable certainty, people instinctively lower their defenses and resistance. When you embody peace, chaos seems to lose interest in you and gravitates elsewhere. When you carry authentic authority, life itself follows your lead without argument. This mirroring effect isn't manipulation or social technique, it's physics. The frequency you broadcast creates a resonant field that automatically influences everything within its range. You're not doing anything to others. You're simply being a clear transmitter, and their energy naturally responds to yours according to universal principles. The revelation that transformed my understanding was seeing that nothing had ever really resisted me. What appeared as resistance in my circumstances, relationships, and financial situation wasn't external opposition. It was simply the perfect reflection of the mixed signals I was sending. On one channel, I was broadcasting worthiness. On another, unworthiness. One frequency carried abundance, another scarcity. One signal declared authority. Another begged for validation. The universe wasn't denying me. It was accurately reflecting my conflicted transmission. When you finally align these signals, when your conscious desires and subconscious expectations come into harmony, the transformation in your external reality can be breathtaking. It's not that you've suddenly gained power over circumstances. It's that you've stopped fighting yourself. The internal war has ended, and the peace dividend manifests as external coherence. If you've witnessed this phenomenon in your own life, where your shift in certainty created an immediate shift in how others responded to you, where problems that once seemed immovable suddenly dissolved without effort, write "coherent broadcasting activated" in the comments below. Now I want to go even deeper into a profound revelation that completely transformed my relationship with manifestation. What if I told you that nothing, absolutely nothing, in your life has ever truly resisted you? What if every obstacle, every delay, every no wasn't actually opposition, but simply the perfect reflection of contradictory instructions you've been sending to the universe? This was perhaps the most liberating insight of my entire journey. I realized that what appeared to be external resistance was actually internal conflict being mirrored back to me with perfect precision. When I declared abundance with my words, but broadcasted scarcity with my energy, the universe didn't pick sides. It simply reflected the contradiction. When I affirmed worthiness on the surface but carried unworthiness in my cells, reality didn't judge. It just echoed the dissonance. Think about areas in your life where you felt blocked or restricted. Look closely at your relationship with those situations. Chances are, you'll discover you weren't sending clear, unified signals. Part of you was saying yes, while another part was saying no. Part of you was reaching, while another part was retreating. The universe wasn't denying you. It was simply honoring your mixed instructions with perfect accuracy. This understanding leads to a revolutionary insight about the nature of true control. We've been conditioned to believe that control requires force, pushing circumstances, convincing others, overcoming resistance through sheer effort and will. But authentic command operates with a completely different mechanism. It doesn't push. It decides. Real control is invisible. It's the quiet certainty that shapes reality without struggle. It feels like an invisible order leaving your body and organizing everything in its path. Not through domination, but through decision. When you truly decide something from this core level of being, you don't need to force the outcome. The decision itself is the creative act that initiates the reorganization of circumstances around you. This is why the most powerful creators often appear to be doing very little on the surface. They've mastered the art of invisible decision, that internal movement that precedes all external change. They understand that the moment of true decision is actually the moment of creation. Everything that follows is simply the universe working out the details of what has already been established at the causal level. The journey of mastery involves learning to recognize the difference between surface decisions that carry little creative power and core decisions that instantly begin reshaping reality. Surface decisions come from the thinking mind and require constant reinforcement. Core decisions emanate from your entire being and need no maintenance. They simply are. When you make a decision from this place of integrated authority, it carries a distinct energetic signature that the universe immediately recognizes and responds to. It's as if reality itself can sense the difference between a request and a command, between a hope and a knowing. This isn't about dominating circumstances through force. It's about remembering your inherent authority to direct the flow of creation through clear, unified decision. If you've experienced that moment of quiet certainty where you simply knew something would manifest, not through hope or wishful thinking, but through genuine decision, and watched as reality rearranged itself to match that knowing, write "command activated" in the comments below. This revelation completely transformed my understanding of manifestation. All those years of striving, working, planning, and pushing, they weren't actually what the universe required from me. The universe wasn't waiting for my effort, it was waiting for my signal. That clear, unambiguous broadcast that comes from authentic certainty. Think about the difference between someone trying to convince you of something versus someone who simply knows. The person attempting to persuade tends to over-explain, over-justify, and overcompensate with energy and enthusiasm. Meanwhile, the person who knows speaks with a quiet confidence that requires no elaboration. They don't try to win you over. They simply state what is. That's the energetic difference between effort and signal. For years, I had been operating under the illusion that I needed to earn abundance through labor, deserve it through virtue, or attract it through technique. The hidden truth was far simpler, yet more profound. I simply needed to broadcast the right signal. And that signal wasn't about doing at all. It was about being. The universe responds not to what we do, but to who we are being while we do it. When you make this paradigm shift, you move from the exhausting cycle of constant effort to the peaceful stance of clear broadcasting. You stop trying to make things happen and instead focus on becoming the person whose natural frequency automatically attracts what you desire. This transformation in your inner posture is subtle but revolutionary. Now, how do you know when reality has begun responding to this shift? The evidence rarely arrives as dramatic windfalls or overnight success. Instead, it appears through subtle rearrangements in your daily experience, almost imperceptible at first, but undeniable when you pay attention. You might notice an email that had been ignored for weeks suddenly gets answered. A refund that should have taken 30 days clears in 3. Someone who had forgotten your existence reaches out with perfect timing. These aren't random coincidences, they're the initial indicators that the field around you is beginning to reorganize itself in response to your new signal. What makes these small shifts so significant isn't their immediate impact, but what they represent. They're the first visible signs that an invisible rearrangement is underway. They're like the initial tremors before a major shift in the landscape of your reality. The universe always tests your new frequency with minor adjustments before delivering the larger manifestations. Many people miss these early signals because they're looking for dramatic evidence. The big check, the dream job, the perfect relationship materializing overnight. But the journey of manifestation is more like watching a Polaroid develop than flipping on a light switch. The image appears gradually, with increasing clarity, as the chemicals of creation respond to the exposure of your consciousness. These early signs are also testing your new signal. They're asking, will you recognize these initial responses as confirmation, or will you dismiss them as coincidence and revert to your old broadcast? Your recognition and appreciation of these subtle shifts actually strengthen your signal and accelerate the manifestation process. They represent the universe saying, I hear you, keep going. If you've noticed these small but meaningful synchronicities appearing in your life shortly after a shift in your inner certainty, these early whispers that something has changed in how reality is responding to you, write synchronicity activated in the comments below. When you start paying closer attention to how life responds to your internal shifts, you'll notice something truly fascinating: the precision of the timing. It's as if reality is constantly monitoring your energetic broadcast and immediately adjusting to match it, often with such exact correlation that it becomes impossible to dismiss as mere coincidence. Think about those moments when you've made an internal decision, not just a mental commitment, but a genuine shift in your being, and watched as circumstances began rearranging themselves within hours or even minutes. Perhaps you finally released resistance around a particular issue, and suddenly received a call addressing exactly that situation. Or maybe you settled into genuine acceptance about a delay, and immediately the timeline accelerated. These precise reflections aren't random. They're evidence of an intelligence that's responding to you with exquisite sensitivity. The wisdom traditions have always taught that consciousness precedes form, that our internal state creates our external reality rather than the other way around. But what's rarely discussed is just how immediate and exact this mirroring can be once you've cleared the static from your broadcast. When your signal becomes clean and consistent, the response from life becomes almost instantaneous, as if there's no gap between your consciousness and its manifestation. This responsive relationship extends beyond circumstances to include the people in your environment. Have you ever noticed how others begin to unconsciously mirror your language patterns, your rhythm, even your exact phrases during conversation? There's an almost musical quality to this harmonization, as if reality itself, through the people around you, is trying to align with the frequency you're emitting. When you hold certainty, people lower their defenses around you without knowing why. When you speak from authentic authority, they lean in and listen more intently. When you embody ease, their nervous systems visibly relax in your presence. It's not manipulation or technique, it's resonance. You're not doing something to them. You're broadcasting a frequency that their systems naturally attune to. I witnessed this phenomenon most clearly during a high-stakes business negotiation that should have been tense and adversarial. Having recently stepped into this new understanding, I entered the meeting with a completely different energy, not strategizing how to win or protect myself, but simply holding an unwavering certainty about the natural alignment of all parties involved. Without any tactical maneuvering on my part, I watched in amazement as the other participants began using my exact phrasing, adopting my calm rhythm, and ultimately arriving at solutions that seemed to emerge organically from the field rather than from individual agendas. What's happening in these moments isn't psychological. It's vibrational. The coherence of your broadcast creates a field that naturally organizes everything within its range. The clearer your signal, the more precisely reality, including the people within it, mirrors that signal back to you. This isn't about controlling others. It's about becoming so aligned within yourself that harmony naturally extends beyond you. If you've noticed this mirroring effect in action, where your internal shift created an immediate and precise response from life, or where others began unconsciously aligning with your energy and language, write "resonance field activated" in the comments below. Now, I want to explore one of the most counterintuitive aspects of this journey, something that completely transformed my perspective on what appeared to be setbacks in my life. Have you ever experienced a period where things seemed to be falling apart? Projects fading away, relationships dissolving, opportunities evaporating? Most of us interpret these experiences as failure or rejection, evidence that we're moving in the wrong direction or that the universe is opposing our desires. But what if I told you that what looks like collapse is actually alignment? What if the projects that fade, the people who drift away, and the doors that close aren't signs of failure at all, but evidence of a profound reorganization? This was perhaps the most liberating revelation in my own journey, realizing that life wasn't punishing me, it was sorting for me. When you shift into this new frequency of authentic certainty, something remarkable happens. Your entire reality begins reorganizing itself to match your new broadcast. But here's the crucial insight. This reorganization necessarily includes clearing away what no longer aligns with your new energy. The universe isn't just adding what matches your signal, it's removing what doesn't. Think about a time when a relationship ended or a project collapsed, and you later realized it was the best thing that could have happened, that its dissolution actually created space for something far more aligned with your authentic self. That wasn't coincidence. It was conscious creation in action. The reorganization always precedes the manifestation. Most people panic during this phase. They interpret the dissolution as evidence that their manifestation isn't working, that they're doing something wrong, or that they should double down on their efforts. but they're misreading the signals. The very things that are falling away are precisely what needed to clear for the new reality to emerge. This understanding leads to a profound shift in how you perceive the opportunities that begin arriving in your life. When your manifestation efforts are driven by need or lack, you tend to view positive outcomes as rewards, prizes for good behavior, evidence that you finally earned the universe's approval. But from this new perspective, you recognize that opportunities aren't rewards at all. They're reflections. The opportunities, connections, and resources that appear aren't arbitrary gifts bestowed upon you for your effort or worthiness. They're the natural, inevitable reflection of the tone you now hold consistently. They're not happening to you. They're happening through you and from you. They're the perfect mirror of your internal certainty, showing up not because you've finally become deserving, but because you've finally become aligned. This shift from seeing opportunities as rewards to recognizing them as reflections completely transforms your relationship with manifestation. You're no longer a supplicant hoping to be blessed with abundance. You're a broadcaster whose signal naturally attracts its matching reflection. You're not receiving, you're creating through the precision of your energetic transmission. If you've experienced this profound reorganization in your life, where what initially felt like loss or failure later revealed itself as perfect clearing for something better aligned with your true self, write divine reorganization in the comments below. This profound shift in understanding brings us to a revolutionary insight that completely transformed my relationship with creation. What we've been calling manifestation isn't actually what's happening at all. Manifestation implies bringing something into existence that wasn't there before, creating something from nothing through mental force or spiritual technique. But that's not what's actually occurring in this process. What's really happening is much more intimate and relational. It's communication with a conscious, responsive reality. You're not manifesting something new. You're speaking a language that the universe already understands and immediately responds to. You're not creating abundance. You're communicating with abundance itself through the precision of your energetic broadcast. This perspective changes everything about how you approach the creative process. Instead of trying to force something into existence through repetition, visualization, or affirmation, you focus on mastering the language that reality already speaks. You recognize that the universe isn't a passive canvas waiting for your imprint. It's an intelligent field that's constantly listening for clear instructions. The revelation that shifted my entire approach was understanding that this communication isn't primarily through words or thoughts, it's through tone. Just as you can say the same words with completely different emotional tones and convey entirely different messages. Your energetic tone communicates far more to the universe than your verbal declarations ever could. As you begin to refine this communication, you'll notice something remarkable that occurs before any visible evidence appears in your life. There's a distinctive kind of silence that descends, not the empty silence of absence or waiting, but the rich silence of completion. It feels like the moment after the orchestra has finished playing the final note, but before the applause begins, a pregnant pause filled with the echo of what has already been accomplished. This silence of completion has a distinct quality that you'll recognize once you've experienced it. It carries a strange calm, as if the world has already made up its mind about your request and is simply working out the details of its delivery. You wake up one morning and realize that the usual noise in your head is gone. No more questions, no more countdowns, no more anxiety about when or how things will manifest. Just a peculiar stillness, like the universe has nodded its agreement and is now in motion. What makes this silence so significant is that it actually precedes the physical manifestation. It's the first tangible sign that the communication has been received and acknowledged, that the field has registered your command and is reorganizing accordingly. Most people miss this crucial signal because they're still looking outward for evidence, not realizing that the first confirmation always comes through this inner knowing. In this sacred silence, you find yourself naturally stopping all the things you thought you needed to do to make manifestation happen. The affirmations, the visualizations, The vision boards, the constant checking, they all fall away because something deeper in you recognizes they're no longer necessary. The communication has already been received. The command has already been acknowledged. Now it's just a matter of timing and logistics. If you've experienced that profound moment when all the internal chatter about a desire suddenly goes quiet, not from giving up, but from a deep knowing that it's already done, write completion silence in the comments below. What's particularly fascinating about this transformation is how it actually feels when it occurs. Many spiritual teachings have conditioned us to expect dramatic emotional experiences, moments of ecstatic bliss, overwhelming gratitude, or euphoric excitement when manifestation is working. But the authentic shift feels nothing like that. When you truly step into this new relationship with reality, what you experience isn't excitement, but recognition. It's not an emotional high, but a quiet, grounded knowing that life has heard you and is now responding accordingly. This recognition carries a strange familiarity, as if you're remembering something rather than discovering it for the first time. Remembering who you've always been beneath the noise of trying and striving. Think about how different this is from the manifestation methods that focus on generating positive emotions or maintaining high vibrational states. Those approaches, while well-intentioned, often create a dependency on feeling good as evidence that manifestation is working. But authentic creation doesn't require emotional management or maintenance. It flows from the quiet certainty that needs no emotional validation, because it's rooted in something far more stable than feelings. This recognition isn't something you need to chase or cultivate. It emerges naturally when you stop forcing and start allowing. When you finally release the need to control the process and simply trust the conversation that's already happening between your consciousness and the intelligence of life itself. With this shift comes a profound transformation in how you operate in the world. You move from effort to response as your fundamental mode of creation. The energy you previously spent trying to make things happen, planning, pushing, strategizing, controlling, is now redirected toward an entirely different way of engaging with life. Instead of initiating action from a place of lack or need, you find yourself responding to the guidance that's already present in each moment. You're no longer the one building the path stone by stone through exhausting effort. You're the one recognizing the path that's revealing itself and simply taking the steps that appear before you. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop taking action. Quite the opposite. Your actions often become more decisive, more impactful, and more precisely aligned. But they no longer carry the energetic signature of struggle or force. They flow from a place of natural response rather than desperate initiation. What's truly remarkable about this shift is how much begins building itself without your conscious intervention. It's as if the energy you were previously using to push against resistance is now being channeled directly into creation. Projects advance with uncanny timing. Resources appear at the perfect moment. Connections form without effort. The machinery of manifestation seems to operate independently of your striving, as if reality itself has taken over the heavy lifting. I experienced this most dramatically in my business, where for years I had pushed and struggled to create growth. After this shift in consciousness, I found myself guided to take very different actions, often counterintuitive moves that my strategic mind wouldn't have chosen. Following this guidance with trust rather than resistance, I watched in amazement as opportunities, clients, and resources began appearing with an ease and precision I had never experienced through all my years of effort. If you've noticed this shift in your own life, where things that once required immense struggle now seem to build themselves through your simple response to intuitive guidance, write "effortless creation activated" in the comments below. Now I want to address something that often creates confusion on this journey: how financial abundance actually enters your experience once you've made this shift in consciousness. Many teachings create the expectation that money will rush in all at once in some dramatic windfall, a sudden inheritance, a massive business deal, or a lottery win. but authentic financial transformation rarely happens that way. What I've observed both in my own journey and in those I've guided through this process is that money begins to orbit you rather than rushing toward you in one dramatic surge. The shift happens through a series of small adjustments and reorganizations that gradually create an entirely new pattern of abundance around you. It might begin with a modest and unexpected refund appearing in your account. Then perhaps an invoice gets paid earlier than anticipated. A small opportunity arises that brings in additional income. A forgotten investment suddenly shows signs of growth. None of these individual events might seem significant on their own, but together they create a new energetic pattern around your financial experience. This gradual reconstruction serves an important purpose in your transformation. Rather than delivering abundance as an external event that your consciousness isn't yet acclimated to, the universe builds a new relationship with money through experiences. Your system can integrate naturally. It's creating stability, not spectacle, establishing a sustainable foundation rather than a temporary peak experience. What's fascinating to witness is how these financial adjustments begin happening with an intelligence that seems to operate independently of your strategic planning. Numbers rearrange themselves with a strange kind of grace, not through your manipulation or maneuvering, but through an intelligence that knows exactly what needs to shift and in what order. As this new pattern establishes itself, you have a profound realization that completely transforms your relationship with manifestation. The door was never locked. All that time you spent pushing, straining, and forcing was actually unnecessary. The barrier wasn't external resistance. It was your belief that resistance existed at all. This insight reveals the true nature of command. It isn't about power or domination over circumstances. It's about permission. It's not the ego, puffing itself up and declaring, "I can," through force of will. It's awareness gently whispering, "It's done," from a place of quiet certainty. Think about how different this is from conventional approaches to manifestation that focus on overcoming obstacles or breaking through barriers. The hidden truth is that there were never any barriers to break through, just misperceptions to release. The door to abundance wasn't locked. You were simply pushing on it when it was designed to be pulled. This revelation brings with it an extraordinary sense of peace. The constant striving, the endless techniques, the desperate affirmations, they all fall away in the light of understanding that your relationship with abundance was never adversarial. You weren't fighting against cosmic resistance or trying to convince a reluctant universe. You were simply caught in a pattern of misalignment with what was already available and waiting for your recognition. If you've experienced this profound moment of realization, where you suddenly understood that the barriers you'd been fighting weren't actually there, write "unlocked perception" in the comments below. From this place of stillness and recognition, you begin to experience movement in your life that feels fundamentally different from anything you've known before. It's as if you've shifted from pushing a boulder uphill to watching it roll effortlessly down the perfect slope. The transformation in how circumstances unfold isn't just a matter of degree. It's a complete revolution in the mechanics of manifestation. You notice that instead of chasing opportunities, they begin seeking you out. Calls you were planning to make come to you instead. People who hold exactly what you need appear at precisely the right moment, as if pulled by invisible strings that were simply waiting for your silence to activate. This isn't random coincidence or lucky timing. It's the natural reorganization that happens when you stop interfering with the intelligence of the universe and allow it to orchestrate on your behalf. What's occurring behind the scenes is a profound shift in your relationship with causality itself. Before this awakening, you operated from the belief that your actions caused your results, that what you did determined what you received. But now you recognize that consciousness precedes action. Your state of being is actually the primary catalyst, and inspired action flows naturally from that state without effort or strain. Think about how different this feels from the constant doing and pursuing that characterizes most approaches to success. You're no longer the one responsible for making everything happen. You've become the conscious center around which everything naturally organizes itself in perfect harmony with your authentic frequency. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by revealing something that few teachings ever address: the invisible instruction that runs beneath every event in your life like a hidden melody. Though not explicitly spoken or consciously recognized, this clear directive shapes every occurrence, hovering in the background like music behind the hum of a song. This instruction isn't something you need to create or formulate. It's the natural broadcast of your deepest beliefs and expectations. The energetic command that's continuously emanating from your being, whether you're aware of it or not. Every circumstance, every interaction, every financial flow in your life is being shaped by this silent directive. What makes this revelation so powerful is the understanding that this instruction can be consciously recognized and refined. When you become aware of what you've been unconsciously broadcasting, you gain the ability to adjust the signal with precision. You move from being at the mercy of your default programming to becoming the conscious composer of your energetic transmission. The journey of mastery involves becoming increasingly sensitive to this background melody, developing the awareness to detect the subtle instructions you're sending beneath your words and actions. With practice, you begin to recognize the dissonance between what you're saying you want and what you're actually commanding through your energetic broadcast. This sensitivity becomes your greatest tool for manifestation. Rather than focusing on techniques or strategies, you attune yourself to the quality of your signal. You become a master at detecting and adjusting the invisible instruction that's continuously shaping your reality. The precision of your awareness determines the precision of your creation. If you've begun to notice this hidden melody in your own experience, this subtle instruction that seems to be orchestrating events beyond your conscious control, write "hidden melody detected" in the comments below. There comes a point in this journey when a profound revelation transforms your entire understanding of the challenges you've faced. All those moments that felt like tests or trials, the delays, the setbacks, the almost but not quite manifestations, they were never testing you in the way you thought. Life wasn't evaluating your worthiness or measuring your effort or determining if you'd suffered enough to deserve abundance. What felt like a series of tests was actually reality waiting patiently for you to speak in the tone it recognizes and responds to. It wasn't judging you. It was listening for a specific frequency, the resonance of certainty that bypasses all doubt and negotiation. The universe wasn't withholding abundance until you proved yourself. It was simply waiting for you to communicate in a language it could act upon without ambiguity. This revelation completely shifts how you view your manifestation journey. Those periods of seeming resistance weren't failures or punishments. They were feedback mechanisms showing you that your broadcast wasn't yet clear enough for reality to respond with precision. The delays weren't denials. They were invitations to refine your signal until it achieved the coherence that creation requires. The breakthrough moment occurs when you finally realize that the search for the perfect technique, the ideal affirmation, or the most powerful visualization was always missing the point. What reality responds to isn't the content of your communication, but its tonal quality, the energetic signature that carries either certainty or doubt, command or request, remembrance or wishfulness. Now I want to share with you the specific command that embodies this perfect tonal quality, the declaration that wealth instantly recognizes and responds to. This isn't about the words themselves, though they matter. It's about the consciousness from which they're spoken. The command is beautifully simple. Wealth answers me now. Notice what happens within you when you even consider speaking those words. They carry a weight, a presence, a finality that most affirmations lack. This isn't a plea or a hope disguised as a positive statement. It's a declaration of what is already true, a remembrance rather than a wish. It doesn't negotiate. It states. It doesn't convince. It knows. The power of this command lies in its recognition of a relationship that already exists. You're not creating a new connection with wealth. You're acknowledging the response mechanism that has always been there. Wealth isn't distant, judging, or selective about who it flows to. It's responsive, completely and immediately obedient to the state that calls it. When you speak this command from a place of absolute certainty, something in the room changes. The air feels charged, as if the world just received new instructions and is already reorganizing itself to fulfill them. This isn't about generating an emotional high or forcing yourself to believe something against your better judgment. It's about slipping into a natural alignment with what has always been true beneath the noise of doubt and striving. The moment you speak these words with authentic authority, you'll feel what every technique and practice was trying to give you: closure before evidence, peace before proof. That's the real law at work here. Not attraction, but authority. The awareness that creation was completed the moment you declared it done, from that place of genuine knowing. If you felt that shift in your being when you speak a truth that resonates at your core, when words leave your lips and seem to rearrange the very fabric of reality, write "command spoken" in the comments below. Something truly transformative happens when you begin to understand that the universe doesn't follow effort, it follows tone. This revelation completely reframes the spiritual mechanics of manifestation. All these years, we've been taught that the law of attraction is the fundamental principle governing how reality responds to consciousness. But there's a deeper law at work that few teachings ever address: the law of authority. The difference is profound. Attraction suggests that you need to pull desired experiences toward you through the magnetic force of your thoughts and feelings. Authority recognizes that creation was already completed the moment you declared it done from a place of authentic certainty. One operates from separation and longing, the other from unity and completion. Think about how this transforms your relationship with manifestation. Instead of constantly working to generate the right thoughts, visualize with perfect clarity, or maintain elevated emotions, you simply need to find the tone of finality, that quiet, unshakable certainty that doesn't argue with reality, but directs it. This isn't about forcing yourself to believe something against all evidence. It's about accessing the part of you that already knows the truth of abundance as your natural state. The universe doesn't need your effort. It needs your clarity. It doesn't require your striving. It responds to your certainty. This is why two people can use identical manifestation techniques with dramatically different results. One is working to attract something they perceive as separate from themselves. The other is speaking with the tone of authority that the universe instantly recognizes and obeys. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic by addressing a misconception that sabotages most people's manifestation practice: the belief that command requires repetition. We've been taught that we need to affirm repeatedly, visualize daily, and continuously work to override our subconscious programming through persistent practice. But authentic command operates by an entirely different principle. The one who truly commands doesn't need endless repetition. They declare once from that place of knowing and then move through the world as if that declaration is already manifesting. Because it is. They don't keep checking to see if their command is working. They don't anxiously monitor for signs of manifestation. They simply proceed with the natural confidence of someone who knows that reality is already reorganizing itself around their declaration. This shift from repetition to identity represents the quantum leap in manifestation mastery. You're no longer trying to convince yourself or the universe of what's possible. You're simply being the person for whom abundance is the natural state. You don't repeat the command to make it more powerful. You might revisit it simply to remind yourself of who you already are. Consider how different this feels from conventional manifestation practices. There's no strain, no effort to maintain positive thinking, no elaborate visualization routines. Just the quiet confidence of someone who has spoken clearly and now allows the universe to fulfill what has already been established in consciousness. This is manifestation from being rather than doing, creation through identity rather than technique. If you've experienced that, profound moment when you simply knew something was done. When a single declaration carried more power than years of repetition because it came from the core of your being rather than from effort. Write "identity shift activated" in the comments below. So before you close this video, I want you to take one deep breath, steady and centered, and repeat the command one final time in your mind. Wealth answers me now. Feel how these words carry weight without force. That's what truth sounds like, when it's spoken from the core of your being rather than from effort or need. From this moment forward, carry this tone into every interaction, every decision, every room you walk into. Let it flow quietly beneath your day until it becomes the only language you speak. Not through constant repetition, but through the natural embodiment of who you truly are. The world doesn't need you to keep asking for abundance. It needs you to remember that you were always the one giving the orders. You were always the creator speaking reality into being through the precision of your consciousness. This isn't a technique to master. It's an identity to reclaim. If this message found you at exactly the right moment in your journey, if it felt like a breath of fresh air after all the complicated manifestation methods you've tried, I'd love for you to join our community of conscious creators. Subscribe to continue receiving these reminders of your true nature, not just another channel with techniques, but a space where we explore the deeper truths of who we really are beneath the noise of striving. Take a moment to leave a gentle trace of your presence by typing "command received" in the comments below. This simple act anchors your new understanding and connects you with others walking this same path of remembrance. If today's message resonated with you, a like is a beautiful way to acknowledge our connection and helps others discover these conversations about the true nature of creation. There's a video right here that explores how to maintain this command consciousness even when external evidence seems to contradict your internal knowing. Click and continue with me there as we deepen this journey together, because the path doesn't end with understanding. It unfolds through living these truths every day. Until next time, remember, you're not hoping for abundance to arrive. You're simply recognizing the abundance that's already answering your call. Because from this moment forward, wealth answers you now.